Yeah, hello everyone. I hope you can see me, and at the same time, I expect that my voice is reaching you. If my voice is reaching you, if I am audible, please put your comment here in the chat box that I am audible. Can you please check it? I see attendance here. Kriti, Gauravi, Hitesh, Pranjal, Edwin, Sanvi. Yeah, I think some of these students I have taught earlier in 10th standard, and some more are there above. And then Harshita, Nilesh, Dipanshi, Yasmin, Satyanarayan, Beirva, Ayavant Kumar, and then Rohan and Rajesh. At this moment, 23 of you are watching, and I won't say just watching, I must say ki 23 of you are attending the class, while strength of your class is around 100. So all of you should have been there watching and listening to the teachers, whatever the commentary is given by the teacher on the chapter. Well, my voice is reaching you, that's what do I believe, and if it is so, please put it in the chat box so I can be very much confirmed. Low volume, slightly low volume. Is it better now? Irshad, is it better now? Whether it has improved? Just check it out, whether the volume has improved a bit. I think it must have. I think it must have improved. Yeah, it's better voice, fine. Well, my first class with you, and beginning today with something quite interesting kind of story, and I had already put one message over there in the group, and see 30 are watching, clap for them, those who are joining after 12, that is I was to say you good noon, but now it is afternoon. So anyways, those who are present over here, I think that they would be benefited, and I wish more people to join, more of my students to join, so that more would be benefited. Fine. So I think prior to this class, most of the portion which was to be covered up for the examination was quite well covered up. Now at the same time, it is quite so important that we proceed with the coming chapters, whatever are there. Now we have taken up this book, Snapshot, and from here we have picked up one chapter, Ranga's marriage, right? And there is another book, Hornbill, that we will gradually switch over to. It doesn't matter. Now we are going to begin with this very nice story, Ranga's marriage. I think the stories here, as you compare to your 10th standard stories, they are more entertaining, and what I find is there is much for us to learn and understand, and this is a light kind of reading for us, and all of you would be able to therefore appreciate and enjoy it. There would be certain things like 36 I see at this moment, good number. I clap for all of you, those who have joined. 37, but don't delay and join quite soon. Every day make it a habit. 12 o'clock we are generally starting the class, only because of some technical issue it gets delayed. So without taking much of time, we may not be face to face, I mean to say may not be there in the physical classroom, but you have to take this class as just like a physical classroom only, because we don't know how long it is going to take for the whole situation in our country and in the whole world. Well, bother about the world later, but thinking of our own country, so it will definitely take some more time to get everything normalized. So by that we have only this one as the proper rescue or the resort, we can say. So online teaching, so whatever is coming to you, or whatever you are able to receive at your end through online mode of teaching, do appreciate and do recognize, do understand, and your doubts of course you can put up. Sometimes you may have a little more doubts, you can of course write to us, and there is no issue when you put your doubts. We will try to get solution to some of your problems, or your doubts can be of course cleared up. Fine. Not taking much time, just switching over to the reading of the text. I hope you all must have got textbook with you, This is page number 16, Ranga's marriage, and it is written by Masti Venkatesha Iyengar. This fellow, Venkatesha Iyengar, is a Kannada writer, and in Kannada he has written a lot of literature, and he is also the winner of Gyanpith, the prize in literature. It is there in our country, and he is among the fourth, I think, the Gyanpith winner of the award. And by this, what you can understand, when you come to know about the personality, what do you understand is it is never to be taken quite so lightly. So such great authors, do we have with us. While his writing is not quite tough, so you don't have to, relate a good author to a very tough kind of writing. It's not so. There is one poet, Pablo Neruda. If you read his poems, they are very simple to read, but he is a Nobel laureate. So it's not just when you find that somebody is speaking or using, or any writer is using very tough language, it's only then you can recognize he is a very good writer. It's not so. You see how lucidly does he move when he describes everything of his village called Hosalli, which is described here in this chapter. So he has picked up a very small event or incident, you can say, which is of a marriage, and they call it is Ranga's marriage. Why they have given this name, that is what the writer explains at the beginning of this chapter. In the first paragraph you will come to know all that smaller description why he has chosen this name. It appears over here, and throughout when you just read this story, you will never get an impression that he has ever tried to exhibit his knowledge of vocabulary. He has been very simple, but at the same time very thoughtful, and at the same time I would say he is quite humorous, and humor is something wherein you find some kind of fun. He is able to evoke that fun with just few, very simple imagery or very simple incidents he uses, and that is what is he capable of. 37 at this moment are watching, very nice. I understand you might have taken all those classes and then you are waiting for your English class. Very good, good sign do I notice over here. Well, before we read the actual chapter, there is something, an extract given above it in the box, and that we are going to just read and try to understand what is it all about. Ranga, the accountant's son, is one of the rare breed among the village folk who has been to the city to pursue his studies. As you read this first line, so here some things are described. Generally we use this breed for animals or the birds, to describe their clan. For that do we generally use. But here the writer is quite humorous right at the beginning itself, and he says Ranga, that is accountant's son, is one of those rarest people. That is, he belongs to that tribe, or he belongs to that a group of people who hardly go to the city for higher studies. So you can just imagine it must be very old time. Nowadays you see the studies are taking place online. So how much of change has occurred over the years? It must have taken almost like a century's time, or maybe almost a century ago you can say this must have been written. If not, maybe somewhat like more than half a century ago this must have been written. So in that backdrop, when we see people would not dare getting shifted from their actual place, I mean to say their native place, their native states, and they would generally prefer to be there in that small area wherever they had been. But now the situation has become just upside down. It is something like those people who were earlier there in the villages, they now want to go to the city. The city people now just they don't want to stay in one particular country, they want to explore opportunities for themselves all over the world, and of course they are there, plenty of opportunities you will definitely find. It's not just about opportunity, it is also about education. People do not cling to one particular area now. They don't have this I would say narrow mindedness or rigidity of thought, and they explore where the best can be explored, and to such places do they go to receive their education. So irrespective of the state, irrespective of even the countries, people, I mean to say, they are ready to go to any place or move to any place for whatever the better thing comes. But it was a time when from the villages, people would hardly move from one place to another. Just and that too, you can say to some extent you can agree when it comes for employment, but when it comes for study, so maybe that was not quite so important at that time. So, rarely people would just by doing their 10th standard they might get a very high profile job. Things have changed by now. If you just throw a pebble there in the crowd, it will fall on postgraduate now. So, this is the condition. That means, in the crowd you will find most of them are postgraduate. So, situations do change, but here as in the story we get the context that the accountant's son was someone who wanted to go to the city or who moved to the city for higher studies, and of his kind there were just rare people. When he returns to his village from the city of Bangalore, the crowds mill around his house, that is, the crowd comes around his house and to see whether he has changed or not. Now, this is something a bit of strange kind of thing for you, is it so? Whether somebody comes from a different state after some 5 years or 10 years, whether people will flock around the person, whether people will be running around the person just to find out whether any changes occurred or not. But believe me, it used to be the kind of situation. You might have seen the movie Malamal Weekly. There that fellow Anthony, he wins a lottery, and the lottery inspector had to go to that village. So, he comes by his car. As he moves into the village, he finds that many such small kids, they run after the car and they want to see what is there inside, how it is from inside. So, it is for those poor villagers who do not get exposure to this kind of modern developments and all. So, there is a kind of curiosity, and therefore, the writer is talking about Ranga, who had moved to a city, and once he comes back, he wants to many people are quite curious about knowing whether a change has occurred in him. Why the change comes? For example, let me just tell you, you go abroad, many of your friends or many of your relatives must have been to countries of the world. If they had stayed there for a year or so and they had been back to your place, mustn't be there a kind of curiosity also there in you, just to find out what kind of people are they, what kind of country is it, what are those things that matter to them. For what I have understood or what I have experienced over the years, if you are in a big city, if you are in a crowded place, so people are more busy in their own lives, and hardly people find time for inquiring about somebody else or somebody else's activities or affairs or anything about the other person. While you are in a small place, people have no other work than to discuss people, who he is, who she is, and why the fellow is here, and all such things, and what he or she does. All those things are the common discussions that we say the gossip. For such kind of gossip, I would find there hardly is there any room in a big city or in a big place. And when you get exposure of staying there at such a place, for example, you stay in Bangalore, you stay in Delhi, you stay in Mumbai, and after spending a good amount of time, maybe 4 years, 5 years time, you get back to your place, you yourself would be able to notice this kind of difference. You would be noticing, how do people react to certain things, how do they react to your dress up, how do they react to your the things that you possess, the things that you own, the things that you flaunt, for example, your mobile phone, your wallet, your other things, I mean to say, anything that you wear. So, those things they may catch their attention. This is something very common. So, here therefore, because it is a rare thing to get somebody go to a city and then come back, and that too only for study. So, people just come around the house of Ranga, and just to find out, just to make sure that everything is all right or there has occurred a kind of change. I am very sure if you visit a place like Mumbai, there is going to be a tremendous change in you if you stay there for a year or two, in your approach, in your outlook, in your way of thinking. there is going to be a lot change over there. It comes if you travel there by public means of transport, then do you understand how to adjust, how to accept the changes as they go on entering your lives. So, this is how one is able to adjust and get acclimatized to kind of situation by being such kind of places. Well, he says he had been to Bangalore, a big city at that time, you can just imagine. His ideas about marriage are now quite different, or are they? So, now a question is there, because it directly relates to our topic, that is Ranga's marriage. So, people also are curious about knowing whether this fellow has changed his ideas of marriage or on marriage, whether there is any change in his ideas, or whether now he thinks of even getting married, is a kind of question that comes after a hyphen. Instead hyphen, it is a dash. Now, moving on to the line 1. When you see this title, some of you may ask, Ranga's marriage? Why not Ranganatha Vivaha or Ranganatha Vijaya? Well, yes, I know. I could have used some other mouth-filling one like Jagannatha Vijaya or Girija Kalyana, but then this is not about Jagannatha's victory or Girija's wedding. It is about our own Ranga's marriage, and hence no fancy title. Now, the writer makes certain things clear. Sometimes we go after fancy, you can say tags or titles for certain events. Nowadays, I have noticed a bit of change there. Recently, one of my nieces got married, and then they had one episode wherein they held such tags for themselves, for their family members, and this is like something new which has occurred there. Over the period of time, a change has come, a new pattern has been introduced. So, it does happen. I mean to say, here when it comes for deciding on giving a title about Ranga's marriage, so can it be something else? Can it be so grand? Can it be so big one? Or what can it be like? It can be something like Ranganatha Vivaha or Ranganatha Vijaya. So, why not this kind of fancy title? See, there used to be Swayamvaras. So, Swayamvars used to be of the princesses. Now, the trend has gone, doesn't it? So, it is just the common public, I mean to say the commoners, when they get married, it is for them, it is only a marriage, it is only a wedding, it is only a ceremony. But for the people, those who belong to royal families and all, there used to be this kind of arrangement. Even in our holy scriptures do we find reference to this kind of vivahas there. Even the vivah of Lord Rama is of a similar kind. Even Arjuna's marriage was also of a similar kind. So, there used to be this common tradition that time. So, maybe the writer must have thought whether it is quite so big, it is just like Ranganatha's vivah or something like that. No, Ranga is just like any other boy of the village. Ranga is just like a simple fellow. Ranga is like our Ranga, isn't it? So, because he is just because he is quite close to us, so we can be informal with such person. For example, let me just quote it to you. If you are in a formal situation, they will give you the titles like Mr., Miss or Mrs. And this gives us a kind of impression that we are in such a formal kind of situation. Now, in corporate world, even these things, they have brought a kind of change, because when things go formal, the feeling of oneness or togetherness probably goes away. And so, in corporate world, even the boss, even boss's name can also be called by his first name or a first name. Or else you might have noticed one advertisement of jabong.com, H for Hitler, A for arrogant, R for rascal, and I for idiot, Hari Sadhu, that is what he says this name. So, how the bosses otherwise would have been described in a very, you can say, a manner wherein you find too much of burden of the boss's position. But to relax all this, the corporate world, they have now gone into the thinking of this one to make the things simpler. So, the employee should not have a kind of hesitation. Now only 26 are watching, so others have just put the attendance. It's not correct. Please go on attending the class, whole class, and you just be very sure that I am not going to finish this chapter just in 1 or 2 such classes of ours. I am going to take enough time as I would have taken in a regular class. So, you do not have to just be in a hurry by giving your attendance, you can just quit it. Okay. Now, getting back to the same point. So, why not this big titles, why not this fancy titles? So, the reason is quite so simple, because Ranga is a simpleton kind of fellow. He is a commoner, he is a common villages like we all are. So, and if such person's marriage is there, so it is just like the marriage is there in our own home and it is of our own child. So, therefore, there is no special title, or there is no such glamour or exhibition of all such things. It should be just very simple for all of us. So, there is no such fancy title. Hosahalli is our village. He introduces the name of his village in this fashion. Hosahalli is the name of our village is Hosahalli. Would have been very routine. I hope you try to understand how the language is used in order to surprise us. As we get surprised by the language, it gets registered over here. Hosahalli is our village. You must have heard of it. No? What a pity. It is colloquial kind of languages, or I could say it's a kind of dialogue sort of language is used over here, as if the narrator is talking to us directly, and he puts it in such a manner. मेरे गाँव के बारे में तो सुना ही होगा, नहीं सुना? If I speak this dialogue in Hindi, it brings the whole idea home, how it must have been like. What a pity, but it's not your fault. So what? There is no mention of it in any geography book. Those sahibs in England writing in English probably do not know that such a place exists, and so make no mention of it. Our own people too forget about it. Now you see his humor, how it reaches the higher level of climax. He says ki you might have heard the name of our village, that is Hosahalli. Nahi suna? It's okay, it's not your fault. Those who make these maps, the geographers and the cartographers, they must not have made mention of it. Since there is no mention of the name of our village there in the geography book itself, how can you find it out? So, it's not your fault, but it's okay. Our own people, that is the villagers of this particular village, they themselves forget the name of this village. So, what else to say? This is too much, no? Our own people, forget about it. You know how it is, they are like a flock of sheep, group of sheep, you can say. And one sheep walks into a pit, the rest blindly follows it. When both the sahibs in England and our own geographers have not referred to it, you cannot expect the poor cartographer to remember to put it on the map, can you? And so, there is not even the shadow of our village on any map. So, I think from the beginning itself, our writer is a bit funny, and he evokes that fun through the description of his name of the village, and he says, first he talks about Ranga's marriage, why not fancy titles? Maybe it goes very plainly to us. Next it comes to the name of the village, and he says, Hosahalli is the name of the village, and maybe you might have heard it. No, so it's okay. It's not your fault, because there is no mention of this village even in geography book, or no cartographer that the Englishmen do this kind of work, so they might have forgotten. Therefore, there is no mention. It is not even their fault. You see, our own villages, they themselves forget about it, isn't it? So, I do not feel it's your mistake if you do not remember the name of our village. Since there is no mention of all this, so I do not find any trace of Hosahalli there in the cartography, I would say on the map. That is, even the cartographers did not mention all that. Sorry, I started somewhere and then went off in another direction. It is as if a lecture begins on one point and it rambles and moves on to another one. It happens actually, you might have noticed it in your regular classes too. One person the teacher begins with one particular topic, and then you notice that it goes into some other direction. The teacher rambles over the topic here and there, and maybe by the end of the class, when the bell is about to be given, the teacher gets back to the topic again. It is mostly with most people, I might say. I have noticed many such people who do not focus on the conversation. See, there is one thing, if you always focus on the conversation, it is also possible that your conversation may not be interesting at all, because you mingle certain other issues which are a bit relevant to the main topic. So, it becomes full of glamour, or quite interesting it turns out to be. But if you just only talk about topic, it's all the time. So, it is just like as if you are reading a paper there in front of the public. So, it is not like that. Therefore, the writer also believes that of course, he has to talk about Ranga's marriage. So, instead of talking about Ranga's marriage, he moved on to some other thing. He described the name of his village, Hosahalli, and all that. And now you see, again he will ramble, again he will just move on from one place to another, one topic to another, he will just sorry, but he makes a mention of that. Those people who say sorry, they are actually more in the habit of saying sorry. And by saying sorry, they do not realize that it was a mistake that I had done, and I have to overcome this mistake, and I did not repeat it. But then in reality, it does not take place. It occurs again and again, at their end. So, it is a kind of routine for those people. They may say sorry for one thing, then after a minute or two again they would say sorry, but good that at least they say sorry. There may be many people who might hurt you and may not even say sorry for it. Well, he says sorry because I should have talked on a topic, and I made you just go here and there. Anyways, I am sorry for it, and I started somewhere, then went off in another direction. If the state of Mysore is Bharatvarsha, what the sweet Kariga Dabu is to a festival meal, then Hosahalli is to Mysore state, that the filling is to the Kariga Dabu. Now, again I think the reader, when he reads it, does not understand much of it, what the writer is trying to convey. Well, what he says is that I am going to tell you. What he says, as is the significance of Mysore to Bharatvarsha, that is to India, so is Hosahalli important to Mysore. And how it is important, Mysore is important to Bharatvarsha, just like Kariga Dabu. So, what is Kariga Dabu? At the bottom you will find it is a South Indian fried sweet filled with coconut and sugar. I think some of you, if you belong to the southern part of the country, might know this. So, maybe quite so famous over there. It is just like it adds glamour to the whole, you can say, South Indian culture. And therefore, he says as Mysore is important, so is Hosahalli to the whole of Mysore state. And now he just goes on describing more. What I have said is absolutely true, believe me. I will not object to your questioning it, but I will stick to my opinion. See, whether anybody put him any kind of question, because there is no possibility also of putting a dialogue like that. But he assesses, the writer imagines that the reader also might have a kind of doubt, might have a kind of question, and if you put a question to me like this, I won't mind it, it's okay. I understand you have your own opinion, you might have certain questions, but that's fine. I am not going to change whatever I said. I will stick to my opinion. I am not the only one who speaks glowingly of Hosahalli. So, you might say, because I belong to Hosahalli, so I will speak volumes of this place, Hosahalli. For example, you stay in Rawatbhata, so you would sing the glory of Rawatbhata all the time. But it is not so. But at the same time, you will have to admit that Rawatbhata is such a unique place. Yes, of course it is. It is all surrounded by scenic beauty, and you will find that there are many picnic spots all around. You will also have to appreciate, though it is a small place, but there is such a huge setup of NPCIL, and at the same time many facilities are made available. And also you will have to appreciate that you are going to get pristine pure air here, unlike the air that you get to inhale in the cities like Delhi and Mumbai and Bangalore too. So, of course, you will have to appreciate. That is why he says, I am not the only one who speaks good about or who sings the glory of Hosahalli. There are many such people, he says. If we have a doctor, now if you quote somebody, you know, eminent or important one, whatever you say becomes more important or becomes more authentic. And he quotes the name. He says ki, there is a doctor. If you say ki there is a doctor, there is you can say a collector who has said something on this, who has commented on this. There is again important minister who has said something on this issue. So those things become quite so important. He says there is a doctor. We have a doctor in our place. His name is Gajbhiye. If you had been there in the class, you might have, you know, guffawed, you might have, you know, given your gesture of laughter, because the sound, the name sometimes sound to you like here, because it is the northern part of the country, Gunda, you know the meaning of Gunda therefore, isn't it? And the complete name of the doctor is Gajbhiye, isn't it? There was a doctor at my place who was ENT surgeon, and his name was Kaan Phade, Kaan or Phadna. You just imagine. So the name itself sounds, you know, something like so strange, isn't it? So he also, you know, the writer, I don't know whether it is reality of the name of the doctor, but he might have chosen it such a manner so that it creates a kind of humor there when the reader reads. Kind of, I mean to say, the smile is spread there on the face of the reader. So he might have chosen this name. Maybe correct, maybe the originality is there in this. So his name is Gajbhiye, and he agrees with me. What he agrees with him is that Hosahalli is a unique place, and Hosahalli is a wonderful place, as it is important. You know, Mysore is important to Bharat Rashtra. Similarly, is this one Hosahalli equally important to Mysore, and he agrees with me. He has been to quite a few places. No, not England. The way of his saying, the way of his expression is, he had been to various places. That means somebody, one who travels to different places, it is assumed that has more of, you can say, knowledge, more of exposure. But he says over here, if I say he had been to various places, you should not misunderstand that he must have gone even abroad. No, not abroad, not even to England. England was quite so important earlier, because the British came over here. They were the most modern people for us, and they led a different kind of life, a very sophisticated kind of life. So no, it's not like that. Our Gajbhiye did not you know, move to England. He did not go over there, but to some other states of our country. No, not England. If anyone asks him whether he has been there, he says no. Anaya, Anaya is a term, you know, Anna, Anaya, this kind of terms of respect. नहीं अंकल, हम लोग जनरली कहते हैं कि अंकल नहीं, मैं तो नहीं गया. So just like that, you can say Anaya is one term which is used with lot of respect for elderly person. So if you ask Gajbhiye whether you had been to England, he would give an answer, no, it's not like that. I have left that to you. Running around like a flea pestered dog is not for me. He says, you just try to understand the imagery. Flea pestered dog. It's a pagal kutta, a kutta that has that has a wound on which many flies are there all around, and because of the flies, this fellow runs from one place to another. So for him it is okay that he doesn't settle down at one place. He may just the dog may move here and there. He says, I am not like that, a flea pestered dog. I would be quite so happy settling down at one place, and Hosahalli is a place where I would be quite so happy to be. And I hadn't been to, you know, places like even England. I have seen a few places in my time, though as a matter of fact he has seen many. Well, the writer puts it as if the doctor Gajbhiye, he had been to various places, and especially he says ki it's not just some places, he has of course been to many places. So with that comes his exposure. I think it is 33 minutes time over here, and if I just go ahead with one more you know, paragraph, it will do. I have some mango, we have some mango trees in our village. Come visit us. I will give you a raw mango from one of them. You see his way of talking. He says कि हमारे गांव में बहुत सारे मैंगो ट्रीज हैं, आओ मैं आपको एक आम दूंगा. Just I'll give you a mango. I'll give you one mango from the trees. Many trees are there, but I'll give you only one mango. And after that, what are you generally there to expect that once that fruit is given to you, you are going to eat it? But he said, no, 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 don't eat it. Don't eat it. Just take a bite. बस पूरा नहीं खाने का, थोड़ा सा bite लेने का, and then the soreness is sure to go straight to your Brahmanindra. Brahmanindra, you find its meaning over here. It's a soft part of a child's mind. मतलब दिमाग में घुस जाएगी उसके वाले खट्टापन का असर है. That may go straight into your brain over here. It will make you just shake like anything. Just like that is he saying. If you just take one bite of it, you are going to find the soreness of this fruit is so much that it will make your Brahmanindra go little, it will get shaken up. I once took one such fruit home and a chutney was made out of it. All of us ate it. See, the writer before some time had said, yeah, I am sorry, I made you ramble here and there, and it was not the topic that I should have hit upon. My topic is something about Ranga's marriage and saying sorry and all that. Now see what happens. Then he talks about Mysore, then he talks about Hosahalli, then he talks about Kariga Dabu. From there he goes on to the doctor Gundabhatta, and from Gundabhatta he comes on to the mango trees, then on mango. Then he says, if you come and visit our place, I will offer to you a mango. It will be a raw mango. You don't have to eat it. You just take a bite, and then what will happen? Then he says, takes us to another story. So this is how we will have to learn how, if we are made to speak on a topic, and when there is nothing to talk about, how we can ramble about the topic as the writer does over here. And he says next, then one such fruit I had taken home and I made a chutney out of it, and then all of us ate it. The cough we suffered from after that, it was when I went to the I went for the cough medicine that the doctor told me about the special quality of the fruit. And how he says how I talked to the doctor about it. It was only when I had suffered from too much of cough because of eating some sour mango. Chutney was made, it must have been tasty, and all of us suffered because of that. So I went to the doctor for getting the medicine for it, and it is only then I talked to the doctor all about it. So it is all so much rambling about the topic, and I think now no much rambling about it, and now I think it's time for me to bid bye bye for today. So bye bye for today's class. See you in the next one.